For all things Halloween. This is Hauntformer, and welcome to a brand new movie review as part of R.I.P. Reviews. In today's review, we're going to talk about a newly released, actually it just came out, horror film from the same director, I believe, behind 47 Meters Down, that killer shark movie that came out last year. I haven't seen that movie, it's on Netflix, and supposedly it's a really good movie, according to my friend Jared, who's been on other reviews, which you can also check out in the description below. But today we're going to be talking about a sequel to the 2008 home invasion film, The Strangers. Today we are talking about The Strangers Prey at Night. So this movie is basically about a family of four, a mom, dad, an older brother, and a sister, who have to survive against these three crazed killers. And there's no rhyme or reason as to why they're killing. They just kind of randomly choose people. Even in the original film, when asked why they were doing what they did, they simply said, "We're doing this because you were home." Which is kind of unsettling if you ask me. This, or I think at least, these films are based off of the Manson family murders, which if you know anything about Charles Manson, you know him and some people along with him would break into people's houses and murder them. Very unsettling and very horrible, but these are loosely based off of those events, these Strangers films, from what I'm aware of. Even at the beginning of this movie, it says based on true events, which I'm not sure how true that is. I'd have to do more research into that, but that's what I'm aware of anyways, and that's what I've heard. This movie, if I had to pick one word to describe it, would be very average. It's not a bad movie, of course, but it's also not that great and not very memorable besides a few key scenes in this movie. There's a few stylistic choices that I thought were interesting. There's some zooming into characters, which kind of made me laugh at some points. There's also a lot of 80s throwback music in this movie, especially when they're driving around in like this truck. So I thought that part was a little bit interesting, but the characters were, they didn't make the best choices, you guys. I don't want to give too many spoilers away, but there are a few scenes where characters could have easily survived or at least put up a fight against these strangers, and they just didn't. And it just left me shaking my head, like, are you for real? Is this where we're going? But they did do one thing right in this movie, and I was very happy to see this in a horror film, which is they actually cared about the characters, and even when they died, it showed, like, the gravity of the situation, which I thought was a really good thing. In a lot of slasher movies, you know, characters die and they make it no big deal, which in, of course, reality, death is a huge deal, and people get really upset about it, so I'm glad they kind of showed the gravity of that. And they made things kind of make sense continuity-wise, especially towards the end of the film. But even then, there were some over-the-top parts of this movie, and towards the end, some of the strangers seemed a little bit, you know, too overpowered in a way, especially the main stranger with the sack mask. Now, I thought that some of the setups in this movie were creepy for, you know, certain startling scenes, and I'm glad there weren't a lot of jump scares. But overall, this movie was not entirely that scary, and I feel like the original had a more unique premise than this one. Now, that being said, I'm not saying this is a terrible movie. You can go out and see it, but it's nothing to go crazy about. It's just an average horror movie. No ill feelings toward it or anything. Just it maybe wasn't my particular cup of tea when it comes to horror movies. That being said, though, there were some interesting parts in this movie. It wasn't overly gory or overly scary, so if you're one of my younger viewers, it's still rated R, so you still have to, you know, be able to attend a rated R film, but it is definitely not overly gory or anything like that where you couldn't not stomach it or something. All that being said, The Strangers Prey at Night is a very average horror film. It has a few neat elements to it, but I felt it didn't completely live up to the original, which wasn't even one of my favorite horror films to begin with. So, overall, it was enjoyable, it was interesting. I'm going to give The Strangers Prey at Night a 3 out of 5 on the R.I.P. Reviews rating scale. Did you see The Strangers Prey at Night? If you did, leave a comment below, or if you want to see it, let me know your thoughts. Thank you again for watching, and remember as always, for all things Halloween, this is Hauntformer.